I work at the Treasury. I'm a civil servant. I work in leadership development, but previous to that, I was a sports psychologist. So a really interesting and varied background. I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you so much, Naomi. Kingsley?
Sorry, I just got a message saying we weren't streaming, so I was sorting out, sorry. So my name's Kingsley. Probably most of you guys have recognized me, but I currently work as a junior group accountant at South Pole, co-founder for a ministry called Spiritually Enlightened, and I also am a youth lay preacher as well. I do many different things, but I'm just glad to be able to gather all these people together on this platform to be able to talk about our experiences.
Nice, thank you, Kingsley. Lewis or Louis? Am I saying it?
Lewis.
Lewis.
Yeah, a lot of people made the Kingsleys laugh when we went to school together. A lot of supply teachers made that mistake, so it's absolutely fine. But yeah, my name's Lewis. So again, similar to Kingsley, I do quite a few things. I run my own sports organisation, so we deliver a lot of community projects, specifically in Lambeth and Southwark, but we're going to be expanding in the coming months. And then on top of that, I'm currently managing a Sport England project that aims to diversify and improve inclusivity in elite sport in England. So between those two and being a dad, I'm quite a busy person.
Thank you, Lewis. Kalinda, welcome.
Hi, and hi everyone. My name's Kalinda, as you know. I work in fashion tech. I work in change management, and I'm a change content designer. So that's really around, my title doesn't reflect what I actually do, as most people's titles, but it's a lot of communication plans and liaising with leadership to manage change in the organization. When I'm not doing that, I also am the founder of a planner that I created called Plan, Create, Do, which is all about supporting youth leaders in their youth leadership journeys, essentially. So, I mean, everyone does a load of things. I do a load of other things on the side, but I'm not so established, but I love to connect with people. So, yeah.
Did you create a planner?
Yeah, I've actually got it here.
I've got one.
Yay!
Nice to put a face to the person who's created that. Thank you for that. Melanie Marie, welcome.
Mel works fine. Hi everyone. I'm Mel. My job, my role, I'm the director for education development at Birmingham City University. What does that mean? It means a whole host of things, but essentially my job is to make sure that those who are teaching or delivering teaching align it with strategic intentions around learning and teaching in higher education, but also that teaching quality is good and that it fits UK standards of quality, but also it meets students' needs. Inside of that, particularly because of the institutions that I work with, there's a lot of work around decolonising the curriculum, anti-racism and inclusivity. And that's tied up with practitioner work around teaching and learning, but also a lot of research takes place there as well. That's a kind of a summary of what I do.
Cool. Thank you so much, Melanie. Adrian, hey, what's up?
Guys, I was writing out my thing. I was like, I don't do three things. I'm very simple. I'm going to keep it to my job. So my name is Adrian. I'm a software engineer at an Internet of Things startup. So essentially we ingest data from mining and construction machines that do various things to basically improve their efficiency and to reduce their carbon impact. I do some other things. I'm working on some things on the side, but nothing worthy of sharing right now.
Cool. Thank you, Adrian. Alex?
Afternoon, everyone. So my name is Alex. I am a scheduling and planning manager at Thames Water. And on the side, I am assistant to the Thames Valley Youth Federation president in Area 5. So that's me.
Thank you, Alex. Manu, am I saying that correctly?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, Mali. Yeah. Hello everyone. So my name is Joseph. I work at Jaguar Land Rover as a lead engineer. in climate systems. So in simple terms, I work in the air conditioning system of the vehicle, cooling and heating and the engine and batteries. So yeah, that's what I've been doing for 6 years now. It's more than time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joseph. Raymond?
Yeah, my name is Raymond. I'm working currently at First Bank of Nigeria. I work as a treasurer, securities and settlements officer. Worked my way up from Metro Bank as a contact service officer. So I was on the call doing contact center. So for example, people who were calling in for their balance, I'll be answering those calls and stuff like that. And I just work my way up into treasury at the moment in time. So that's what I do right now. That's it.
Cool, thank you. Sunny?
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Sonny. I currently work as a system engineer for Amazon Web Services. Worked my way up from being a network analyst / engineer. Yeah, in a nutshell, that's what I do. It's a bit of a complicated role to explain, but in a nutshell, we just look after the hardware and the operating system and the network and the security side of AWS cloud. So yeah, that's what I do.
Okay, cool. So Sunny, continuing with you. So the next question is like, how did you get to where you are right now? So what made you want to do this? How did you get here?
It's an interesting question because I didn't know this is what I wanted to do, if I'm being honest. So like, I work in tech. How do I even say this? I had the unconventional way to get to where I am today. So I started off as a field engineer working for Virgin Media, and then I slowly worked my way up to technical advisor for a small company. Then I landed my first networks role, Sky, and then now I am here with Amazon Web Services. But when it comes to IT, there are different ways to get to industry. I sort of worked my way up because I'm more hands-on. So I hope that answers your question. I'm not sure if I answered the question.
Cool, thank you. That's perfect. You answered my question. And I'm literally just working my way back. Joseph, same question to you. How did you get here? How did you get to where you are? Do you know something that you always wanted to do? Maybe not. Oh, I think he's dropped off. I'll ask Raymond then.
Yeah, just like I said before, I studied business accounting, thinking to go into accounting. Didn't go. I mean, right now the job is quite hard to get into. So was looking for finance jobs, anything really, which was very hard. Then saw an opportunity for Metro Bank as a contact service center. This is not as after graduating, you don't expect to go into that kind of role, like be on the phones to customers, but you need to understand that, okay, I'm going to work my way up from the bottom and see whether I can, shadow any other departments and get myself into potential accountancy role. So started a contact service center officer, spent probably a year there. Then there was opportunities within the company to join another department. Imagine is quite long because I keep changing jobs every year because of opportunities arising in different places, and that's where you realize once you get a job, other opportunities arise. People like your skills that you're getting. But just to cut it short, I literally basically did the business accounting, started as a contact service center officer, then showed my interest to my manager saying I would like to go into treasury. She then put me in places or contact with people who did treasury, where I then decided to shadow and learn exactly what they did, and then technically applied for the role there. Some employees will understand that you do not have the actual experience or skills, but they're willing to actually train you to do it. Okay. So that's how I got into mine.
Cool. So as you're demonstrating that there is opportunity to progress in your role?
Yeah, definitely. What I really like to say is like make friends with people because you never know where your colleague might be next. So the reason why I'm at where I am now because I made good friends with my colleague and she then became a manager in a different company, and then recommended me the role and put good words for me to say, oh, he's really good, he's hardworking, and he will be able to manage the job. And that's how I got myself in there.
Amazing. Thank you. Kalinda, how did you get to where you are? Did you know that this is what you always wanted to do?
So with me, I would say where I am now is not where I thought I would be. I thought I'd be down more of a creative path. So I studied creative advertising and I interned and I did a few things, but I never really got into it. Ended up kind of falling down the tech rabbit hole and loved it. So I was doing a lot of facilitation and training in digital transformation. And then from there, I then moved companies to the company that I'm at now. And my role literally kept transitioning because I did digital transformation. And then I was like, after about 2 years, I said, I miss being in the design piece and designing the experience. So when our head of brand left, I ended up kind of like over her role in terms of like managing a lot of the creative content pieces that we had come in because I had the skill set for it. And then when I left, I went into content design, and my role year on year kept on changing more because of the organization more than myself. And I allowed that change to happen. And so I just kept on accruing new skills from communications to now change management. But I think the creative part of me is still there, and that's probably where I put it into side projects. And what was the other piece of your question again? Or how I answered it?
You've answered it. You said, so the two-part, how did you get to where you are, and did you know that you always wanted to do it? So
right. Yeah, no, pretty much it. And I think I would just echo what Raymond is saying. A lot of work is relationships. And I think that the earlier you understand that, the better that your life will be, because I know people who would do coffee catch-ups with people that they have no business doing coffee catch-ups with, but it's all about who knows you. And when someone knows you and they like you, so I was chair of our Black Employee Network and my company's Farfetch. And that really helped with my relationship with like chief level, chief and exec level. And so some of the initiatives that I'm working on now, because people like me, they're like, Kalinda do it, or Kalinda's really hardworking, or, you know, so I think get your name in many people's mouths and it will serve you well. That's what I would say.
Okay, thank you. Hold on, I've seen more people have joined. Edie? Yes, Keely Davis. Okay, sorry. So hi, welcome. Thank you for joining us. We are just on the second question, but I'll ask you the first one. So just to introduce yourself and what profession are you in?
Hi everyone. So yeah, my name's Keely Davis. I am a nurse. That's it in a nutshell. It's not my first profession that I started, but that's where I am at the moment. And yeah, it's a bit different for a male, I suppose, in this country to be a nurse. But yeah, so I'm a charge nurse at the moment. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much, Keely. I'm just trying to get next person is Simone. I'm sorry, Alicia Richardson. Is she here now? No. Kingsley, is she gone? Lydia, is she gone? Fine. We'll just continue. So thank you for that, Keely. I think 3 people have said it. No, it's important to know people and network. Do we all kind of agree with that? As in, show emoji if you want. Thumbs up, thumbs down. kind of Naomi. Yeah, Lewis. Kingsley's put his hand out. I think everyone's agreeing with that. So the advice we'd give to those who want to join in any of these careers, network. It's important to get to know people. Okay, cool.
I think also to add to the networking thing, I think there's different fashions of networking. I think the way people think about because when you say networking, I'm thinking, oh, I need to go and see people and stuff like that. But it can really be like just joining someone to lunch. Like if someone's going to lunch, like, oh, what do you do and stuff like that. It's very simple. And just getting to know. Every time when I go, like have lunch with people, I was, oh, how did you get here? How did you get there? And then I learned their journey, and while you learn from them, you notice that, oh, some people didn't even go to uni to get a role. So yeah, networking doesn't always have to be like the networking that people think about, like, or where it's always everyone find someone, chat to people. Sometimes it can literally just be someone, you see someone working in the department, he's taking lunch, join him on this table, ask him, oh, hi, I do this, I do that, and is there shadowing opportunities at your department, and then just joining them.
Thank you for that, Raymond. Kingsley, your hands up.
Yeah, so to even add on to what Raymond said, it really is true. You're not really going to network with somebody when their back is against the wall. You're going to do it when they're relaxed. And one reason I know that is when I went to like a business network event, initially everyone's tense. They don't really want to share their business ideas. They're just like, I got my business, you got your business. We can do what we want to do. But then when they start playing games, that's when everyone puts down the defenses and says, oh, you know what, you help me, you help that. And I think just in general, as human beings, that's just the way we are. And I've learned that in my current role, it's the case where a lot of the networking events that they're doing is the case where, I don't know, someone's decided to, for example, my first week, someone bought a whole batch of pain au chocolat and croissants from the actual French store and just, you know, let's just share and talk, because let's be honest, you know, if people don't know each other, everyone's just going to be like, okay, they're just going to look at each other across the room. And that's the way we network. And I like the fact that Raymond brought up, and like Adrian said in the comments, it's most authentic when it's done in an informal and casual way.
Naomi, your hands up.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Agree with what's been said already. I would add two things though. One is that I think the best way to authentically network is by doing a really good job. And being seen, doing a really good job. It's all very well and good setting up coffee catch-ups and going to lunch, and those things are really important, but actually doing your best at the job that you're in will get you noticed. And I think that's incredibly important. And that is a side of networking that so often gets forgotten. And although it's really important to do authentic networking, I would also really encourage people to think about what their brand is in the workplace. So I know what kind of leader I am, I know what kind of employee I am, I know what kind of facilitator I am, and I've built quite a strong brand around those three things, so that people, when they ask me to do things, when they see me at events, whatever it is, they know what to expect, they know what they're getting, because I've put purposeful effort, intentional effort into creating this brand. So the first thing I would say is be noticed at the things that you're really, really good at, and think about what you're good at so that you get yourself in those kind of environments. And secondly, think about what your brand is. What is your USP, your unique selling point that only you can bring to this particular culture? For me, it's I'm a very inclusive leader. I'm a really good facilitator, and that's not something we often see in my particular workplace. And so I've built a really strong brand around that. And I just want to say that's also really important side of networking that can sometimes get forgotten.
Cool. Love that. Thank you so much, Naomi. Melanie, and then Raymond.
Yeah, so I agree with colleagues around networking being crucial. And I agree that there's a way to network. And that was a really interesting point for me, because it kind of ties into what was just said, what Naomi just said around being good at your job. And that's how I was successful in my job. I've been back in the UK for 4 years after living in the Caribbean. So nobody really knew me, but I've made a pretty good name for myself as a result of being back only 4 years. And I've done quite a lot. For someone who's only been back in the country for 4 years, having worked in two completely different sectors in higher education. And that wasn't because of who I knew. That was because I did a really good job whenever I was asked to do something. And also it was when I spoke authentically and honestly about my perspective on things in certain spaces. and confidently about my perspective on certain things. And as I mentioned earlier, I do a lot of anti-racist work, and that's kind of what's helped a lot as well, being honest and authentic as a Black woman. But that also brings another layer into the conversation when we're talking about success and networking and all the things around our careers. I think it's really important, particularly because of the dynamic and the group of people that we've got here, particularly with our age and as well as our ethnicities and our backgrounds, our cultural backgrounds. It's really important, and this is me being extremely academic, so forgive me, it's really important to understand the nuance that exists in the different spaces that we go into. Not every space is going to be welcoming of you. Not every space is going to be positive because you do your job. There are going to be spaces that are quite negative and harmful towards you, and there are going to be spaces that are become particularly difficult because you're good at your job, because you're a young Black person doing well at your job, or a young person of color doing your job really well. And so for me, networking is not one of my strong suits. I absolutely hate it. But I do it because I have to, because of the fact that if I don't, as a young Black woman, it's very easy for me to get sidelined. But I'm also extremely confident, and as Naomi said, I'm very articulate and accurate in what I'm saying in these spaces. So it's not just about going and interacting with people and being nice, it's about being authoritatively nice, knowing exactly what I'm talking about, and speaking authoritatively on whatever it is, but also knowing when to shut up and not say certain things, because I recognize that the space is not safe or conducive to me and the knowledge that I bring into that space. So I just wanted to add that too, and kind of tie it into what was said around being careful around and different ways of networking. For me, networking didn't help me necessarily with my career to this point. It's helping me now, but it didn't help me to this point. What helped me was being honest and articulate in certain spaces and knowing what I'm talking about in every space that I go into in the context of my job. Another thing that really helped me was actually not just doing my job. And it sounds, it's oftentimes contradictory advice that we get, particularly as people of color, talking about the fact that, as we say in Trinidad, if they see your ass, they would ride it. And so one of the things that I've been told my whole life is be very careful that you're not overdoing it, because my mom used to do that for years. She worked in the NHS, and it was that thing of working harder than you need to work because they will work you because they know you do your job well and they know that you'll keep doing it. But actually, I'm not sending the message that we should be doing that, because now I can sit back and say, no, I'm not doing that. That's not my job. It's 5 o'clock on a Friday. I'm not responding to your email. But actually, I was stepping outside of myself and outside of my actual role to learn about things that were probably above my pay grade or outside of my scope, so that when somebody asked me about it, I understood. When I went for an interview, I was able to speak to it. And when someone pulled me into a room because of the fact that I was a Black woman and they needed that inclusive voice, I was still able to speak to it. So it's about knowing what you're doing, but also knowing what other people are doing and knowing the space that you're walking into, and having tact, I guess, is what I'm saying, and understanding when to pull back, when to think differently, when to engage, when to disengage, those types of things.
Okay, thank you, Melanie. Adrian?
Sorry.
Raymond. Sorry, Raymond.
Yeah, no, sorry. And literally, I just agree with literally both points that just been made. Like, be very careful with being seen as the joker in the office, because that's all they're gonna. That will be that might seal your deal. Like, that will be how far you go. So your branding is so important. Speak when you need to speak. Because I know one colleague of mine, like, everyone goes to him for advice for how to do this particular thing. However, they're not looking to promote him as a manager because of his behavior, how he is. He likes to joke around and stuff like that. So it's very important, your branding, and also be seen. Just like she was saying, like, take responsibility of certain things. Like, let's say, for example, one of your colleagues wants to send an email to a different department, and that's a department that you would like to, that you find interest in. Ask to, you know what, oh, can I send that email to them so that at least they see your name pop up? You know what I'm saying? So I think that could also help with the networking thing.
Thank you very much. Kalinda and then Lewis. Oh, you're on mute.
Thanks. I'd just like to add, I think it's important to kind of know your strategy when you come into a workplace. Sometimes you won't know, sometimes you will. But like, I know that there's some people who maybe they feel like they're not being recognized and they've been in a place for a while and they're not being promoted and things like that are happening and they're not learning anymore. And I think it's like a good thing to understand, like, when to leave a place when you're not getting what you need. And I think, you know, someone might say, not everyone will know your work situation. Someone might say you're not working hard enough. And if that's the advice that you take and you take that very literally, you'll think that there's something wrong with you, but actually your environment might be not really good or quite toxic, or just a place that you're only meant to be for a season. And so I think just like know your environment. And then also with the strategy point, not everyone actually wants to be in a job and work their way up to the top. Some people just want to work. And I know it sounds like a really lazy other perspective, but I do know some people who will stay in a job for 1 year and then decide to leave because their current strategy is just actually basically increasing their salary because they want to get to a certain point by a certain point. And I personally don't think there's any shame in that. I don't think that's like my personal route, because I'm very interested in learning a few particular skills because I want to work for myself. So I do find myself in scenarios that maybe like when I was doing our chairing our Black Employee Network, it was very much about, okay, how can I learn about partnerships and things that aren't naturally in my role so that I can liaise with people who do it all the time. And if I need to ever think about how that works and how I want to work with an organization once I decide to freelance, I have that understanding and that scope. So I think just know what you want to get out of an environment, and don't feel bad about the path that you take for yourself because everyone around you is doing it in a particular way. Otherwise, you find that you're doing a journey that is not authentic to who you're meant to be or what is on your heart. So, yeah.
True. Thank you, Kalinda. Lewis?
Yeah, I think to add on to the networking topic, I think, yeah, everyone that said something has contributed greatly. And I think something that was really important for me was establishing who I was personally as much as I was professionally. So, you know, I stepped into a space of sports development, which was pretty much dominated by white males. When I graduated from university, looking for roles in a higher education setting, I couldn't find a sports development officer or manager that looked like me. So I knew stepping into that sector, I was going to be significantly outnumbered, but my circle, my family, my close friends, who I spend time with away from my professional world, allowed me to keep parts of myself that I think were really important. And now that I'm in a position where I'm managing and I can really sound off the experiences of us and put a bit more of myself into the role, I'm able to do so. I think coming into roles, and we see it in professional sport, we just see it across the board. Sometimes you're told to water down pieces of who you are. And in some cases, you have to do it in the early stages. You have to kind of hide who you are. I didn't have locks when I first got my job. I had a short haircut with a fade, but I always wanted locks. But I knew as I progressed, it was something that I would explore. And I think keeping your inner circle as authentic and as genuine as possible is key. And it's easier said than done, but it allows you to sometimes come home after a rough day. And I have rough days to this date where people say inappropriate comments and I'm going back and forth. But when I step home, I can take that sigh of relief, and I'm not in an environment where I'm being judged for anything that's said. So I think that's really important. You can get caught up in the rat race of, right, I want to climb the ladder, I want to be the best professional possible, but that personal development is key. And particularly in today's era where mental health is such a big thing, I think that's how you look after your mental health as well, particularly being a young Black person or young non-white person in a space where you're probably going to be the majority, the minority, sorry, in that position.
Okay, thank you all for sharing. More people have joined. I just want to ask them to introduce themselves and what they do. I think, okay, Smile a While. No, that's not your name. I'm assuming that is not your name.
Sorry, I thought I changed my name. I don't know if you can hear me because I'm struggling with signal.
Okay, you can hear.
Yes, you can hear me. Okay, my name is Lana. I kind of have two jobs, kind of transitioning out of one. So my traditional role is in law. So I'm an associate professor in a law school. And alongside that, my husband and I have a construction firm that does residential and commercial construction. Oh my gosh, aging is embarrassing me. Okay, I will end there and I'll mute myself.
No, a follow-up question. How did you get to where you are? Did you know you always wanted to do it? What was the route, the path?
Okay, there is a path in terms of law or in terms of the construction firm.
You can do both if you want. But I think Kingsley put
Okay.
on the,
So in
mostly law associate professor. So answer it however you feel, it's fine.
In terms of my pathway, so when I was kind of in first start, actually, let me go back to what we would call A levels. So A levels in the Caribbean. So I'm from Barbados originally. And when I did my A levels, I wanted to go into law immediately. But the Lord allowed, this is kind of the Lord's bigger plan, that I didn't get into law. And persons who were of a different, because in Barbados, there's still sometimes that white-black divide, it's the reality. Some people who had done worse, but they were better connected, they got into the law school and I didn't. So then I was forced to go and do a year. Well, I started a degree, a double major in economics and accounting. And I actually didn't know anything about maths after GCSE level. But my mom said, no, you can do it. And I cried a lot. I'm not going to say that it wasn't a case of, oh, I didn't get in and I was happy. No, I cried because I think I was the only person in my school to get 2 distinctions in law at both levels, because we do level 1, level 2, kind of the way that they have lower and upper in this country. So I cried and I struggled and I wondered why being in economics and accounting, I had to work so hard. I will not deny that. But at the center of it, I kept God at the center. I kept church at the center. I kept ministry at the center. Even though I know I had to put in twice the amount of work as the average person who was doing maths a few years ago. I did that year, graduated with a, I think, 4.07 GPA. And that allowed me then to transfer into the law school. Now, when I transferred into the law school, because of how the Lord had allowed me to go into economics and my tuition. So the Lord allowed that I didn't have to pay anything when I got into law because of that diversion. And that diversion, as I said, I just want to emphasize, it was very painful. It wasn't something that I rejoiced in. It's something that I was very angry that God had not allowed me to go through straight to the path in law. Then I got to the second year of law school and my teacher said, I think you'd be a good teacher. So I said, okay, let me think about teaching. So that's how actually I met Kingsley, because I met him in Cambridge when I came over to do a master's. And then the option was kind of going back home to Barbados to teach. Now, you will not get a position in a law school as a person now coming out of studying, because they expect you to have all this experience. And the question is always, where do I get the experience if nobody gives me the chance? But what had happened in my third year, there was a student, and this is how God works. There was a student that had Asperger's syndrome. And the dean of the law school asked me, would you be willing to help this student, since you seem to be getting through, help this student understand the work and at least be able to pass? So I said, okay. When I took on the task, I realized it was much more work, because it was basically like teaching him the syllabus in a way that he could understand, which meant relearning everything. And that also meant me doing some courses that I didn't actually choose, but I had to help him with. As a result of that, when I finished Cambridge, she was so impressed that I was willing to put myself aside to help the student, that she gave me a role in the law school. So then that's how I got into to teaching. And then after that, the rest is kind of history. So because I had helped someone, some worldly person had mercy on me, and then that's how I got the opportunity to start to teach. Construction, on the other hand, which is strange. I've been working in the law school in law for my first academic post was in 2012. So this year would be 10 years. But 4 years ago, through some weird situations, my husband decided that we will start a company. So we started this company, not really knowing where God would take it. But the Lord allowed me to be on leave from the law school for a year. It was paid leave. And the company just blew up, like literally just blew up. God was just blessing us and guiding us. There were a lot of challenges too. Oh my gosh, why is Adrian not here? Oh my gosh, Adrian's going to be talking about me. But yes, the Lord allowed the company to grow, and the Lord allowed that blessing to happen. And now I'm in the place of wondering, am I going back to the law school or am I not? So I was planning to resign from the law school, and I spoke to the dean to resign, and he said, no, you're too good. You need to take some time, think about your life, whatever. So he gave me another year off unpaid. So I'm on my second year of leave unpaid, but I basically work in operations, strategy, and legal affairs in my husband's company, or in our company, he would say. So that's kind of the pathways of how I got into these messy situations. But in every place, and I'm sure people said this before, that God was leading. When I had to do the economics and accounts, when God diverted me from law, that's helped me in the company, because apart from the external accountant, I do all the finances. I mean, I want to get rid of it, but we need to rebuild the finance team, because some people had childcare issues with help with their children. So the finance team kind of fell apart, but there's nothing in the company in terms of finances, filing accounts, whatever, that I don't understand, simply because God diverted me and forced me to do a year in economics and accounts when I didn't want to do it. So that's the end of me talking.
Thank you very much, Lana. So going back, I'm trying to get some individualized questions out. I just want to get through the kind of general questions to everyone. So let me go to Alex. How did you get to where you are now?
Similar to Raymond's story, mine is humble beginnings. So I've been working for Thames Water since 2013. Oh, 2 minutes. Okay, sorry, Kingsley. But I've been working for Thames Water since 2013, so I've been there about 9 years. So I started off in the call center, worked most way up to through developer services to become a technical coordinator, which is to do with new builds, and assets and that kind of thing. And then from there, I went on to become a scheduler on behalf of Kier. So Kier is a partner of Thames Water. And then from there, we got 2P'd back into Thames in April. And when we got 2P'd back, there was an opportunity to become a team leader. Now, this is a very shortened version of my story, because obviously King's put me under pressure, but eventually I was able to apply and become a team leader, so team manager as well. So here I am.
Cool. Thank you so much, Alex. Adrian, same questions to you.
2 minutes. Okay. So started off, did economics at university, kind of landed in sales. Really got pushed to express myself to be a strong communicator. And someone said that you can't sort of progress in your career by making a joke. I feel like I did. So my colleague was having an issue with a client. I made a joke saying I'd sort it out. My colleague later on went on to interview me. I got the job. I really pushed myself. I made a mistake at work that exposed me to the world of code. To resolve it, took a mini course, saw an ad on Google, started to learn to code, built some small projects, got really good at my job, got promoted, got moved to Canada. I just came back. Oh, I skipped a bit. Then started a new team with a guy in Canada, did some more coding projects, built a portfolio, got my promotion as a software engineer, and then sort of it's gone from there. And I think a lot of it is networking. You definitely got to put yourself out there. Hard work and diligence, so we'll do the rest. And I think letting God lead you and having an end goal in mind as to sort of what you're doing. I think, like Joseph, whether you're a butler for a house or a internal prison warden or a prime minister, I think God is going to put you in positions and give you the capacity to serve him. And I've seen loads of opportunities, and I try to use my skills currently in my personal life in church. And I've got plans for a more missional future with those same skills. That's a super short version, but yeah.
Thank you, Adrian. Melanie Marie?
Yeah, I'm a bit of a pain in the butt because I ask very pointed questions, because I think it helps when there's clarification on certain things. A number of colleagues have said that God has led them, or that they've allowed God to lead them. I think it would be good if colleagues could explain what that actually looks like when it comes to career development and decision making.
Yeah. Oh, Adrian.
You know what? Prayer. So like, so there's a quote from the book Education, I think chapter 31, and Spirit Prophecy says that we should watch for the indications of providence when we make decisions as it relates to our career. For me, I did the best work I could do, and I shared my faith and opportunities, and I had quite a lot, which I can't go into here. And I think if you treat your workplace as it was your mission, I think there's a scripture that says, whatsoever you do, whatsoever you eat or drink, do it as unto the Lord. So I didn't see church as a ministry and my work as my job. I saw everything as a ministry. And so that the effort I put into that, I think, like I said, it brings you in front of the relevant people. And when it came to making decisions, I think really praying through those. And then I think there's natural resistance. If you're not in his will, things don't seem to go, they're not necessarily aligned or smooth as they should be, or there are definitely roadblocks. But when they are in his will, doors just open up. And I could tell you 101 stories about how, like, I thought I would get in trouble with the Sabbath. And then I found out that my CEO was a Sabbath keeper, even though he wasn't even, like, it was really there's just so many situations where I thought there would be closed doors and God opened them because it related to where, like, God has a calling for all of us. And I think where we are trying to serve him and aligning our careers in that same fashion, he pushes us in a way that complements both areas. I think that's the shortest way I can do it without taking in everyone's time. But that's my simple thoughts.
Thank you, Adrian. Keely, then Lana, then Linda.
Hi. So yeah, like I said, I'm a nurse. I didn't actually start out being a nurse. Initially, I wanted to go and do medicine, and then I ended up going through teaching, which I didn't teach in secondary school kids, which was a very good learning opportunity. And then I went back to school and ended up doing nursing again, which is something that most people would be like, of all things, why would you do? But I think for me, the way God led me and the reason I am where I am now is because I had to kind of humble my pride, in the sense where by most people, you would see nursing, and for a male, is not necessarily classified as a male's job in this country. In America, is slightly different, but maybe it was the environment I was around, but he was like, why are you going to do nursing for? It wasn't necessarily in my line of hobbies, because I do a lot of tech stuff generally. And a lot of people was asking, why am I going to do teaching from teaching, to be fair? And what I realized is, I think God uses certain experiences to teach you things. So for example, I went into nursing. If I went into nursing straight away, I probably wouldn't be even up here, because I probably would have left it. Teaching taught me a bit of resilience. It taught me to be organized. I was not organized before I went into it, but when I went into it, I applied myself, and it really helped to organize my life so that now I am where I am. And I've only been nursing for 3 years. I'm able to now lead a ward and manage a ward, because I've gone from being just a band 5 nurse to learning how to do it. And the leadership skills that I've learned from even simple stuff like part finders, I've been able to apply a lot of different things, and all the little experiences God has given me has allowed me to advance relatively quickly in the field I am in. And I think when we're talking about what does it look like, I don't think, for me personally, I don't think I've seen God say, you're going to do A, then you're going to do B, then you're going to C. My life has been like up, down, left, right, going sidestep, going what looks like a regression. And it's worked. It's worked. I'm happy. I have my family. And when you look at my house, I have loads of different things which God has allowed just to work out. And if I wasn't in the position I was in, when I was in the position, I would not have had the opportunity, the finances, the backing from my family, etc., to get to where I am now. And so I think in most cases is whatever your hands find to do it well. And whatever opportunity is there, push yourself to do that opportunity. And if God closes that door, you take it as a lesson and you move on. If it stays open, then it's obviously an invitation through. I think that's the easiest way to put it.
Thank you, Keely. Was it Lana, then Kalinda, then Kingsley? I think so. Yeah, go for it.
Yes, very
You're gonna
quick.
keep it. Sorry to cut you. Everyone has max 2 minutes to speak.
Okay, 1 minute I need.
1 minute, go for it.
No, when the question was asked, I thought about when I was younger. So when I was younger, I used to think about God leading as a clear path. You'll kind of see a year ahead, 2 years ahead. But actually, what I'm learning is that in some ways, God leads you and he shows you 1 day ahead. Some cases, he shows you a month ahead. Some decisions, he shows you 2 months ahead. So as a result of that, God's leading, don't look for God's leading in a holistic picture. Look for God's leading in the little steps and decisions you're making, as opposed to big picture. Because too long we've been taught that the big picture will come together. And often the big picture does not come together. It's often little decisions that you make that lead you to that pathway. And then you look back like Joseph and say, oh, God was leading me to that pit. God was leading me to Potiphar's wife. God was leading me. And I'm going to take my 10 seconds, since Kingsley said I have 10 seconds, and I'm going to keep talking. Okay, good, I'm finished.
Thank you, Lana. Kalinda?
Yeah, so just on the point of what does it look like with God's leading, I think for me, it was, I knew that like, for me, I was a creative. And so I think later on in my journey, I learned more about myself, that creativity doesn't have to just come from being in a specific type of creative job. And so when I didn't go down the advertising route and I went into tech, and I created and I started creating like planners for work for the experiences that we had there. That's when I was also a youth leader. And then that gave me the idea of, oh, okay, why don't we have planners? Because I'm training people in these accelerator courses. They're finding it hard to follow along, and that's part of the experience. So why don't youth leaders have planners when they become youth leaders in church? Because we just like throwing them into this job and expecting them to know without the guidance. And that, because I was building content, it inspired that thought to create that thing. And so I think that sometimes a lot of what we become is just the places that we've been. And the idea of train up a child in the way they should go, I think that sometimes that's how God speaks to us as well, in our personalities and in the way that we are, in the way that we understand the world. He kind of like messages things to us, like, so something can just be a form of inspiration, and it can be bugging you, and you're like, God, is that you? And so I would say that for myself, I don't actually always know where I'm going, but there are a few things that are on my heart and they haven't shifted. And so that for me is an indication of God is actually trying to work something in me, because I can't seem to get rid of this feeling that I should be working for myself at some point. It won't shift. And so I think everyone maybe hears God differently. Maybe some people it's more audibly, and other people it's like in their passions and in the things that they're interested in. And I think it's just kind of leaning into the things that you're doing and also your interests. And I think sometimes it may not seem like God is guiding you. And just to quickly wrap up, it makes me think about David and how he was destined to be king, but he was a shepherd. And then it's like when he beat Goliath, it was just like people just didn't see who he was meant to be, but we get to see the origin story from when the person's still in the mess of getting to the place that they're trying to go. But when he was being pursued by Saul, he wasn't thinking that was going to be his end point. And so it's like, we don't know why some things are part of our journey, but I think a large part of it is character development, as someone was saying, I think maybe Adrian in the comments, and who we become on the journey is also more important than the journey in itself in sometimes. So yeah.
Thank you, Kalinda. Kingsley. And then I believe Law is on the chat, or is on Zoom. After Law, are you able to tell us what is it you do? And same question to Fiona, but firstly, Kingsley, please make your point.
Right, just so no one thinks I'm being mean, I've set 2 minutes for myself as well. I like all the things that you guys have said, and one thing that's very interesting that I want you guys to realize is there's a term called transferable skills. And I feel like many a time we're doing things, whether it be in church, whether it be a youth group, or even, for example, with Lewis and I, doing things in secondary school, not realizing the fact that sometimes we are put into specific situations so that we can use those skills that we've learned at a latter point in stage in life. So, for example, me, myself, from the age of 18, I know I've always wanted to be an accountant, but everyone knows just because you said you want to do something doesn't mean it's going to happen the way you want it to. So for me, I've had the unfortunate experience of working in many different companies, but even though I've worked in all these different companies, I've basically had somewhat managerial type posts or managerial type work in all these different posts. So just to give an example, I decided to, when I was in my university degree, take a placement out. And, I worked at 2 different accounting firms and eventually went to work at a retail company. And afterwards, I worked at a nursery. And it was a case where I had all these different roles where I had different ways of doing things. And now I find myself in the current role where I'm thinking to myself, what are they going to get me to do? And it's now gotten to a point where I've realized that because they can see the fact that I'm someone that's quite ordered and quite good with technology, they basically say, Kingsley, we want you to basically, be very good at, controlling the whole process of the way different things are done. And it's interesting because, even being honest, the current role I'm in is probably the hardest role I've ever been in because the business is literally changing as you blink your eyes, to the point that my manager can ask for one thing and change his mind. And it's making me really good at being able to manage time management skills. And I think that's the reason why when I'm getting you guys to speak the time, you guys are wary of it. And you're just like, I need to be as succinct as possible and make sure that I'm making my points right now. And just so you let you know, there's 10 seconds left. So that's it.
Thank you, Kingsley. Law and Fiona, what is it that you do? Would you like to introduce yourself, please? And welcome.
Sorry, did you said Law and Fiona is someone else? Is that somebody else or is that?
Yeah. Are they on this? Oh, they're not there. Sorry. Oh no, there is someone. No, there's anonymous on it, and Kingsley said
anonymous. Yes, reasons, but yeah, I'm anonymous.
Okay. Would like to introduce herself and what is it that you do?
Yeah. So hey, my name is Fiona Doncourt. I'm currently an account assistant, but from next week I become an assistant financial controller. I've been in the finance industry since 2016. 2016, yeah. So it's been going to 6 years now, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm really enjoying it so far. My job is becoming less accounting, more commercial. So I'm enjoying basically the process and where we're going, and where I'm going in my journey.
Cool. Thank you very much.
If that's something I'm meant to say, but I'm 1 exam away from ACCA qualifying.
Nice, congratulations, well done. That's amazing. Everyone should shout out. Thank you. Okay, so I'll ask you one more question then, Fiona. How did you get to where you are? Did you know that, was it something that you've always wanted to do?
Do you know, at first, well, I don't know if it's an African thing, but every parent wants you to be a doctor. So it starts off of, I want you to be a doctor. You work towards it. You're like, oh, I realized that I'm not really good at science. So I didn't get to do the triple science like everyone else. That's how I knew I wasn't good at it. So then after that, my parents were like, okay, you're always arguing with us, so you'd be a good lawyer. So I tried to do law, so I tried to get the history down and the English. Wasn't good at that. Terrible. So I left that out. I was like, I can't do law. And my parents said, you know what about accounting? Because I had no clue what the industry is like. So they were like, accounting would be great. So I looked into it and I was like, well, I'm good at maths and that's the only subject I seem to be great at. So let me just give that a try. That went well. Then after that, yeah, Ghanaian accounting, they're like bread and butter. Honestly, it's just accounting, ACCA. So when I finished that, basically from there on out, I was just doing accounting, business, IT, things that were relevant to what I wanted to do in the future. So I did my A-levels, I failed. I did it second time. I didn't do too bad, but it wasn't the grades that I wanted. So I did AAT, which is another accounting qualification, but it's just a lower version of the ACCA. So I did my AAT, did my level 2, level 3, got enough UCAS points, was able to go to university, did accounting and finance, finished that with the first class. And then I went straight into my first job as an accounts assistant at Kurt Geiger. And from there, my second job is where I'm at now. And I'm about to move into my third business.
Cool. Thank you so much. And congratulations for almost being there.
Thank
You're welcome. That's fine. I wanted to ask someone a specific question. So, Naomi, I actually saw you speak, I think, or was it last year or the year before at SCC Youth Day? And I understand that you trained England national football team?
Yes.
So, speak on that.
Where to start?
Where you're at. Go for it.
Okay, yeah. So I've always been super sporty. And that's really been such a passion in my life. And at the end of my A-levels, I had absolutely no clue what I wanted to do. And therefore, I studied sport because it's something that I absolutely love and is the bread and butter of our lives, really. I married a rugby player, so I've literally not escaped it, unfortunately. So I went to Loughborough, I did 3 years of sports science. Then I went to Swansea and did my master's in sports psychology by research. So it was a massive thesis that I did. I was sick and tired of being taught. I wanted to go out and learn in my own way. So I did a master's by research. And sport is notoriously hard to get into. There are loads of people who want to get into it, obviously super popular, and it's full of white men, and I don't fit that bill. So I had to wait for my time. I had to wait for my opportunity. So it doesn't always land in your lap. Sometimes you've got to find those transferable skills, work on those transferable skills to make yourself as marketable as possible. So I actually worked for NBA 2K, and I was a producer on NBA 2K video games. Don't like video games, don't understand basketball, but that's fine, we move. And developed a lot of project management skills, a lot of negotiation skills, a lot of communication skills with individuals whose first language may not have been English, and that is really fundamental in the world of sport. So I was then able to move into the English Institute of Sport, which is the leading worldwide sport medicine, science and innovation partner for Team GB Olympics and Paralympics. We also, we also work with the FA and the RFU. So we talk to lots of football players, lots of rugby players, and absolutely loved my time there. I think for me, the one thing that I would say is something my dad's always said to me, which is I tend to overthink decisions. I get very anxious. I'm a very anxious person. I'm very type A. I like a plan. And my dad has always said to me, Kingsley, the decision you make is always the right decision because you make it the right decision. And so for me, no matter what I'm in, I find a way to make the most of it. I find a way for it to develop my skills for future, for whatever it is that I want to move to next. So you always find a way of making it work for you, whether you're there for a year, whether you're there for 10 years, you will always make it the right decision for you, and it will always form part of your path to the future. I wish I could tell stories on football and football players, but it's Kingsley's fault. So don't blame me, blame Kingsley.
Thank you so much for that, Naomi. Thank you very much. Kingsley was also telling me, Lewis, that you used to play basketball. So the route, how did you get from doing basketball? Is he still on?
Yeah. So
sorry.
I'll make a long story short. So secondary school, I was always a capable student, but I like to have fun a bit too much. So we had a PE teacher called Mr. Ellis, Kingsley, one who I'm talking about, and he got me initially into boxing. And I really love boxing because I was learning how to throw my hands, and I was trying to challenge everyone to a fight. But with a Ghanaian dad, that was never going to happen. So he picked basketball for me. We had Brixton Top Cats, which was our local club, and I just remember him dragging me down there one Wednesday, and he just kept bringing me every week until I enjoyed it. At first, it was a place where I found other young men in particular that had similar interests. So it was like kind of like a youth club for me. But then I got a bit good at it. So I ended up going to the States for a while, came back. I got a scholarship here to study at London South Bank. So they paid for my education. And I suppose a blessing in disguise was me tearing ligaments in my ankle in my first year. So I had a lot of spare time on my hands. And I didn't want to get a conventional retail job, so I got into coaching. And initially, I wasn't the best of coaches, but young children, young people of all ages, they always listen to me. So I think, that kind of sparked something. So I got back into playing. And then in the back of my mind, I was like, what am I going to do once I graduate? And it was always calling me. And in my local area, I grew up in Peckham. A lot of young people were making some bad decisions, some bad life decisions. But I was always the older in our area that they'd listen to and come and seek solace. So I suppose what I did was 30 seconds left. What I did was just combine the two. So I figured out what I was good at. I figured out what my passion was, and I put the two together. And that's how I created my business. And that's how I've kind of progressed up in sport, from a coach to now kind of managing and overseeing projects.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you, Lewis. Kingsley, are you happy to know?
Yeah, I am. Yeah. By the way, Lewis, you actually had 10 seconds to spare. I don't know if you realize that. But one thing I like about Lewis is that, so this is actually the first time him and I have seen each other for like 13 years. And what's crazy is that what I've realized is that a lot of us have made transitions in life to one thing or another. And what I find interesting is that we always have kind of peaks in our careers that end up making us what we are today. And I think that's something important to really highlight to a lot of young people, because I think there's this perception that a young person can just become a CEO straight away. But all of us are probably very much aware of the fact that if you were to do that, you could potentially maybe even have a heart attack, because there's quite a lot to go into such a big role straight away. And it's important for us to realize that there are steps that need to be made for us to get to where we need to get to. So for example, someone like Naomi, I don't think it was a case where her very first role was leading the English national football team. I'm pretty sure if that was the case, well, good on you, but it would be a very, very difficult task, because as you know, this country likes football a lot. If you mess up an English national football team, we know that we change our football team managers like we change clothing. And I'm going to let Lewis talk. Like, I'm guessing Lewis is going to ask something to do with that. I'm going to let him speak.
No, I just kind of want to, I suppose, back up your claim. I think, when you come out of university, there's this assumption that you're going to be separated from your non-graduate peers, and you're going to have, for me, I thought I was going to be making 25, 30K, and I had all these magical plans of what I was going to do with the money. And my first role, I think I was a PE coordinator in a primary school, and I was doing guided reading with year fives in the afternoon. So it was quite a step back from where I had in my head. But what kept me going was understanding the long game, and understanding that, kind of looking back 10 years, when I graduated, I was 21. If I'd looked at where I was at 11 when I started secondary school, it was a big amount of progress. So I think for young people, it's just about understanding that you want to play the long game, and nothing happens before it's time. Like you don't want the big salary before you can manage your finances. If I had got a 30K, 40K job graduating, I would have blown every penny I got. So nothing happens before it's time. And I think every experience you're in, work or personally, is an experience to learn, an opportunity to learn. So get your notepad out and just take notes for the whole journey. And for me, that's kind of what's allowed me to progress through, is just understanding every opportunity is a chance to learn.
I really like the fact that Lewis said that, and it's funny that he said that because he's a father. So I'm pretty sure he knows that his child is not just going to jump and start running. And I think being a father has taught me so much about myself, to realize that babies and children are probably the smartest people in the world. The fact that you can learn a whole language by itself, you can learn to walk, talk, and run. And I've been blessed to have a boy and girl. So obviously I've seen different fashions where a boy has energy, a girl does things in one way. And it's very important for us to realize that when you actually are, it's very important to realize that, just like Lewis said, when you actually finish university, I feel like there's this impression that you've become the expert in your field, whereas you're actually nowhere near the expert. In fact, you've just done a couple of modules here and there to get an understanding, and there's no practicality to it. And I think that's my kind of initial problem with careers like, for example, like accounting, where it's very much practical based, in the sense that you need to be able to do the work to understand it. And I'm pretty sure it's the same as sports. It's a case where in order for you to understand sports, you have to be able to, go through the different things. But I noticed that there's probably a panelist here that I haven't really been able to really speak to much. And that's Benjamin, or Joseph, as in my ad. And one thing I find so interesting about Benjamin is that he works in a very niche field. So do you mind just quickly just sharing what exactly inspired you to get into that field and what you plan to do next, Benjamin?
Yeah. So within the engineering sector, I always knew I was going to be in engineering. I just didn't know it was going to be in the automotive industry, working for the Jaguar Land Rover. So I mean, my story is a bit of when I actually applied for this job initially, it was through like a careers day at my university, and I was doing my dissertation at that time. And I told myself, this is just a waste of time. I'm not gonna go. I've got my dissertation to do. That's more important. That day I went over there, handed over my CV on a piece of paper, literally thinking nothing of it. All the jobs I actually applied for, where I wanted to go to, I didn't get. And that job at Jaguar Land Rover that I handed over my CV was the one that actually ended up calling me, and then I ended up getting this job. I mean, in terms of since being there, you know, for me in my career within Jaguar Land Rover, it hasn't been really planned. Like I know, it hasn't been like I've known exactly what I want to do. Fortunately, I've landed in a career that I really, really do enjoy. I actually started off humble beginnings as a graduate integration engineer on a really, really, really bad salary. But, you know, as long as you've got the goal in mind, I was able to take the sacrifice of not being paid well. And I did understand, you know, you haven't got experience. You can't just expect to go straight to the top. You know, you have to sacrifice with experience. So I think as long as people have the understanding initially, especially within your industry, because I feel like a lot of people expect the bigger salary, but they don't really understand there's steps, there's progress, there's stuff you have to do initially. Everybody's been there. You just don't understand that yet. So I just feel like once everybody understands that, you can really excel in your career and really do well. My next plans is I haven't got any plans of moving away from there. I mean, I've delivered all the 21 model year vehicles out there. So yeah, if you see a Velar or an F-Pace or an XE out there, yeah, I worked on that for the 2021 models. At the moment, I'm working on 2026 models at the moment. So there's a few things I can't really say with the projects that we're working on, but yeah, there's really interesting stuff coming from my company. Yeah, and I haven't got any plans of moving. I will be staying there, and I'm planning to go to the top. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Thank you for sharing that experience. And before I even go to Melanie, one thing that I found so interesting is that there were two, I guess you could say, pivotal moments in my life that I would say really shaped my career. So the first was I was in my second semester of my first year of university. Probably a lot of people don't know this, but I was coming back from a BBC One talk show, and you know, obviously you get loads of different emails in your university inbox. And one of the ones that I got was to actually sign up to a BBC Three BO and Boss competition. And you know, the actual person I actually ended up speaking to, I didn't know, said to me, don't bother to apply to that. But I'm someone, well, if you know me quite well, you know, I'm someone that takes God quite seriously. So when he said that, I said, okay, that's fine. I prayed to God about it. And I tell you no lie about this, God helped me write that business plan. And it got to a point where I came to the expo, even though my business was just an idea, every single person in the room was talking about my business as if it was something that was physically there. And one experience that really resonated with me from that whole expo was the fact that Tim Campbell himself, yes, Tim Campbell, the first one, the apprentice himself, spoke to me and said, Kingsley, your idea is good, you just need credibility. And even though that happened to me back in 2012, 10 years later, I've carried that vision forward. But another thing that I want to just highlight was another experience I had when I was working for a contract role, and it was for a company called HCT Group, which essentially helped with the upkeep of all the different buses in London, etc. And what I found so interesting about that role is I was basically there to deal with like their purchase ledger, which is essentially the people that they're essentially their suppliers. And they had a problem where it was a case where they were just paying too much money, and I had to basically find out what happened here and there. And what would happen is I was sitting on weekly cash meetings to assess the business. And in one of the said weekly cash meetings, I ended up speaking to the founders of the business, and he actually talked us through the entire process of how he got to where he was, where initially he had to clean buses, he had to do all this stuff. And it made me realize that even CEOs, even all these people, they came from humble beginnings. And from those humble beginnings, they are able to appreciate where they are now. But I'll let Melanie go now. No pressure, Melanie, but I'll let you go now.
I was just going to kind of present a different view of what's been said before. Well, I agree with the fact that there is a time for everything, and that there are you can't, there are certain achievements that come with certain knowledge and experience. I totally agree with that. There's also something about breaking the mold, and actually, and again, knowing when to do these things is a certain type of sensitivity and awareness that you have to have, right? You're not just going to roll up in there in the middle of your first day of work and start shaking up the strategic leadership plan. But the flip side of that is breaking the mold. And there is a big movement, particularly in the conversation around anti-racism and anti-colonialism, where we're talking and looking about the fact that the way that this world, and particularly the UK and the US, have been set up has been done intentionally to marginalize people that look like us, think like us, and come from the backgrounds that we have. And so there's something around, actually, yes, I want to succeed in these systems. And yes, I want to rise to the top in these systems. But actually, do I really want to succeed in these systems? Do I really want to rise to the top in these systems, conforming and molding myself in the ways that I've been told, predominantly by white power structures that don't understand our backgrounds and our cultures? So yes, there is a time for everything. And yes, there is a way that, you know, experience factors into that, and learning's 100% factor into that. There's also understanding that actually I'm not learning these things, and God isn't giving me this experience and learning to be the same. He's giving it to me to be different. He's giving it to me so that I can shine brighter in different spaces that maybe light hasn't gone to before. And so there's something around, actually, yes, I want to succeed, but do I want to succeed in the way that I'm being told to succeed? Or do I want to succeed and break the mold that has existed actually in a lot of times for the oppression of people that are like us and like our own parents? So there's something just around thinking differently, thinking about success differently, and trying to change while actually trying to lead at the same time.
I'm so glad you mentioned that word change, because I feel like people don't like it. And I feel like as human beings, the moment that we're told to do something that's against our normal reactions, we tend to resist against it. And it's funny that Kalinda actually works in change management. But it's so crazy because it's only through you actually having changes that you're actually able to understand where you need to go in life. I see Lana has a point.
Sorry, I was also driving, so I pulled over. I really like what Melanie just said, Melanie Marie just said, and it forced me to think, particularly when we got to that point as a family to decide to start our own business. Like I said, it wasn't something that we sat and said, oh, let's start a business. It was kind of unintentional, and God was leading. But I love that you said, when I was in the law school, what made me happy initially was getting Law Teacher of the Year. So I got Law Teacher of the Year in the same structures that were oppressing you, if that makes sense. And that made me happy. And then we got to the regional level, and I was top 4, nationally top 6. And that made me happy. But then I started to think about it. And think about the fact of, why am I clamoring for the praise of the people who oppress me? And why is it that makes me happy when they validate what I am doing that I know is good? So as we transitioned and we kind of moved into this idea of having the company and a Black-owned company in the Northeast, because in the Northeast, where you kind of see like 20 Black people. We see more now, but just generally, when we first came, I think we could count them on our hands. And, you know, my husband and I, we always thought about, okay, so how do you put yourself out there, particularly just as a Black-owned business? How will we attract business? And I think we spoke about it before, about God leading and God opening the opportunities, and us realizing that we should be able to, there's a time and a season for everything. I'm not saying, like you rightly said, the first day you go into a job, you do things. Sometimes you need to work for a few years to build up that capital, to get the mortgage, because the bank wants to see a certain level of stability. Once you get that mortgage, once you get that whatever, then you can say, okay, now I can take a risk with my kind of employment. But it is true. I really like what you said. I just had to pull over to emphasize it, that we just really need to be aware of, am I, just like Naomi said, am I clamoring for the attention of the traditional, sorry, let me just drive forward. I can drive one hand. Okay, she's passing. Yeah, am I clamoring for the attention of the same people who I am saying are my oppressors, the same people who won't give me the opportunity? So at the end of the day, that's a really important point. And I'll stop talking.
Thank you. I was about to start timer, but thank you. But what I was going to say to what you said is that one of the most interesting things I feel I've learned, and probably Lewis will be able to attest to this because Lewis has learned me the longest, in secondary school, I was not the person I am today. I was quite reserved. I didn't really speak much. But one thing that has really been able to help me to be able to conversate properly and really know how to approach business and etc. in a better way is me being a youth lay preacher. And most people, they ask questions, that's all great, but it's more a case where by me doing this, it's giving me the opportunity to build my conversational skills and also build my confidence as well. Because let's be honest, it's not easy to get up and speak in front of 500 people in Croydon, or speak in front of this many people. And I feel like sometimes, we overlook these different experiences, not realizing that it's through those experiences we're able to actually bring it back to our careers and even bring it back to every aspect of our life to know how to really actually help people in the best way possible. I'll take Kalinda's hand and then I'll take Lewis's hand.
Yeah, I think that even when I think about careers and when you look at the generation coming up, they're taking these really untraditional routes into, I guess, financial independence. And I think ultimately that is the goal. And I think sometimes, I just think that I think wherever possible, I would always encourage people to think alongside your career with whatever you're doing, financial independence is the goal. So we've heard some people who have their businesses on the side and things like that. And I think ultimately you want to be able to be independent enough where you can support yourself, support your family, your life goals, and even give back. And I do believe that God has given us different types of skills where sometimes a lot of the things that we end up doing in our side hustles do help other people as well. But I think, I don't know what the lens of the topic or the conversation could look like, but I think about whatever that is for whoever's listening. How do you become financially independent? What skills do you have? And, test out and try things. Don't wait to have everything in front of you. I watched a TED talk the other day of this teenager who won a Grammy for making some beats on his phone with his iPhone. And he's before he kept on saying, I need more money to get into the studio. And he's he got to the point where he started getting invited to the studio to make music, but he would still use his phone because that was what he was used to. And I just think that, sometimes we have so many things in front of us. Be resourceful, play around with it, especially when you don't have the pressure of trying to support people. So just throwing that out there.
Thank you very much. And I'm glad that you mentioned TED Talks, because I think one thing that's really helped me to be able to really understand things, put things into perspective are TED Talks. So if no one knows what they are, essentially, as I understand it, they've been given some podcast to Adrian. What they've been given is a topic. So for example, the topic is purpose, and they need to speak to that topic in regards to whatever their field is. So say, I don't know, the person that decided to bring up Nissan to where it is today, they would have to speak about purpose and align it to it. And it's very much what I'm actually getting all of you guys to do, but you don't even realize it. Speaking to a topic that you have actually mastered and doing it in a very, very strained time limit. But before I even continue on, I know Lewis has to go, so I just want to take Lewis's last point before he goes.
You're on mute, by the way.
That's a rookie error. Sorry, guys. I think just to say, so that point about changing, particularly from secondary school, it's a big thing. We went to a boys' school, so who we are now certainly would not have been accepted in the environment it was in. And I think for a lot of young, probably women, but I can only speak to the young male experience, is you have to embrace that change. So we spoke about networking. The way we grew up and the way we were in secondary school, we would have been seen as nerds to go, or beg, so to speak, to go to someone you don't know and ask them questions and pick their brain. And a lot of the time we have to rewrite patterns of behavior, and in some cases trauma that we've developed from our environments in order to succeed in the real world. So I think for any young person that's kind of watching this, that understand that it is a journey, and there are going to be some things that you're going to have to unwind and relearn, because what you needed to survive from 11 to 16 isn't what you're going to need to survive from 16 to 21 and then from 21 plus. So I think there's a big piece about just embracing the change, and it's difficult. There are times where you question who you are, you get questioned by your peers, and in some cases, you do have to leave some people behind, and that's quite a difficult thing when you come from a certain environment. understanding not everyone can come with you is a big thing as well. But it takes time. I'm 29 and I'm still trying to figure that stuff out and still deciding who's meant to be with me on the journey. And you just got to embrace it and really sit with yourself and figure it out.
Almost did the same as Lewis. Thank you. Thank you very much, Lewis. And obviously I know you need to go, and thank you for your time. It's greatly appreciated. I'm just happy to see that people from my past are making movements that are really great. I mean, I would have wanted to have Jamal and others on, but I know everyone's schedules are very busy. Thank you for your time. And also, thank you, Melanie, as well, for coming on as well, for giving us your very rich experience. The question I wanted to really ask us all is, along the lines of, so in terms of, you know, what Lewis and I were talking about, you know, in terms of our growth and our progression and everything, one thing I realized is that not everyone is in the fortunate position to know what career they want to go into. So obviously for me, you know, I knew I wanted to, but actually funny thing is, I didn't actually want to be an accountant first, that's a lie. I wanted to actually go into game design. And what my best man actually mentioned in my wedding speech, and I thought to myself, I don't know why you're mentioning this, but and when I say, I mean, I'm being serious. So even Lewis knows that it was a case where I'm very methodical to the point that I actually drew the games console out. I wrote the games, I wrote the background story. And guys, it was a bit corny, but it just goes to show that I didn't realize it, but that was maybe my way of being able to understand I was going into accounting. And when I think about that, I think about my friend Sonny, who he didn't originally have everything planned out. Sorry to put you on the spot, Sonny, but I'm just trying to bring the conversation that way. But he didn't exactly have all the different things planned out. And Sonny, if you don't mind, just saying just a couple of words, how did you go about figuring out that you wanted to do what you wanted to do?
It was a bit of a long journey, as well. But you know, I just sat down and weighed what I could do and what I couldn't do. So what I was good at, and I realized I'm very good at hands-on stuff rather than just sitting down and learning. Didn't actually do well in school and college because of that, actually, because I didn't realize that obviously the systematic approach of learning wasn't actually for me. So growing up, that's something that I've actually learned about myself. So to answer your question, I just weigh the pros and cons of what I wanted to do, basically, and then I just went from there. Initially with field engineering, but as I got into the field, I realized, okay, cool. I learned everything, it wasn't challenging me, then I moved on, and then same scenario. I learned everything, it wasn't challenging me, then I moved on. And along the way, I guess I picked up a lot of skills that are absolutely
Right, thank you for sharing that, Sonia, and thank you for also being very honest. And one thing I realized, it goes back kind of to what Fiona was saying. It's a case where very much in you know, African, etc., or Caribbean, or whatever, we're told, you know, become a doctor, become a lawyer, and all this stuff. And one thing I've learned, especially from having children, is that we should try not as possible to tailor the careers you want, you know, our loved ones and even our own children to go into, because at the end of the day, as much as we may know them, we don't know them to the point that we can actually plan their lives out for them. And even speaking of my personal experience, so at A-level, I started accounting, business studies, IT, and I believe it was religious studies. But I was told, I was strongly encouraged to do mathematics. And if anybody on this Zoom conference did mathematics in A-level, you know that was essentially the death subject, where everyone that did that subject, especially if they didn't like it, regretted it. And I'm so glad that I never even bothered to go into that, because I think one of the biggest misconceptions about accounting is that it's very much maths related, when it's actually more so to do with theory and a combination of mathematics. But I think one thing I've learned that's really refreshing about accounting is the fact that even though ideally, like every one of us, you want to learn every single thing about that particular thing in our field, it's so multifaceted, where it's a case where someone can work in tax, someone can work in, for example, as Fiona rightly said, she's now transitioning from the normal route. And what I like about all these different careers is a case where it's only once you're in that career that you can actually figure out, I want to specialize in something. Because let's be honest, guys, there's no way, for example, Lewis can actually specialize in every single sport. That's not physically possible. I mean, if you can, that's great, but it's a case where you have to pick one thing. And when you pick that one thing, that's when you find out what you truly love. And I think that's what really resonated with me from the speaker this year's camp meeting, it's a case where the reason why he loves his job so much from traveling and everything is not because he's getting paid a lot. It's not because of the fact that he's getting a rich experience. It's because this is not a job for him. This is fun. And when we get to that point with our career, we realize that it's a case where we're not, worried about our next pay slip. We're genuinely able to actually enjoy ourselves and say, you know what, like Lewis, I'm able to help these young kids be able to realize, oh, you can actually, shoot the ball in the hoop. Or for example, like Naomi, you can actually talk the England national football team to done what has not been done in history before. I see Lewis has something else to say, which is interesting because I thought you had to go, but I guess you're just 2 rows in the conversation.
I got like 2 minutes, but I suppose, to build on that, I think, going into your career post-graduating, let's not lie, if you don't come from money, then money is on your mind and you're thinking about how am I going to make the most money in the shortest space of time. But I think something that stuck with me and something that's allowed me to progress with my career is when I first started coaching, the impact I had on children and young people was introducing them to a sport and giving them a positive sporting experience. But then I come from Peckham. I had people my age dying. I had family members getting into problems. I had close friends getting into serious issues. So for me, it was like, all right, how do I really make an impact? So the career goal for me was, if I meet someone tomorrow on the street, what can I really provide? What positions can I really put them in to succeed? So it started off from me being able to give someone a positive sporting experience to now being able to get someone a scholarship at university, or to now being able to give them a job or be a character reference. And with that has come more money. But it once I took the money out of my mind and it was more so about my impact and how well I did my job and the amount of people I impacted, that's when the success came, not when I was just chasing a pound. So yeah, that was my point. I do have to shoot off now, guys, but lovely to meet you all. And Kingsley, thank you so much for having me.
No problem, Lewis, no problem. Thank you. I think everyone has benefited from you, Lewis, from Melanie, and I don't know if anyone else has left the platform, but thank you all for joining in. And I'm really trying to hold on for the last panelist because I believe she'll really be able to benefit everyone, but I'm not sure she's going to come on, but I'm still going to continue the conversation. Alex, I remember obviously you were talking about Thames Water and talking about care and all of the different ways it's changing, etc. And one thing I wanted to know is, in terms of your career, what is next for you? Because I've noticed from looking at your LinkedIn, it's like your role is literally changing like clothing. So, I mean, what is next to you as an individual?
It is changing like clothing, I'm not going to lie. But the thing is, I think pre-COVID, my purpose, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I'm not going to lie. But then COVID gave me the opportunity to really think about what I wanted to do. And one thing I love is I love to teach, I love to learn, I love to inspire. So I thought, okay, how can I do this? So I think deep down, I've always wanted to go into, the leadership role because I've always wanted to be the change that I wanted to see. So I thought, okay, Thames Water, obviously, it's difficult becoming management, especially when, you're a person of a certain background. But I said to myself, okay, you know what? Let me try and look past that and let me try and focus on skilling up anyway. So, it got to a point where, and I know we said it earlier, but when I worked in my previous role in developed services, I was a social butterfly. And I think my branding at the time was I was the office clown. Do you know what I mean? And because of that, it was difficult to move up into the role that I wanted to become, which was, a team leader, etc. I thought, okay, I'm kind of networking, etc. And maybe it's an opportunity to, get to know different people. But because of the image that I had, I wasn't really able to move anywhere. So it got to a point where I left that department, I got into the scheduling and planning role, and and I worked, and I skilled up, and still in my mind, I was thinking, okay, what do I want to do? In university, I did business management. So I said, okay, why don't I try going into project management? So, I decided to pay for a course, which I'm still doing now in the background. I didn't mention before, but I'm doing project management on the side. But at the same time, I thought, okay, I've done this scheduling role for 2 years now. you know, whilst I'm doing my project management, what can I do to really get the skill that I need to get into what I want to do in the future? So I applied myself over the years, and I really said I want to, you know, make myself distinct. So, you know, rather than being the yes person that certain job positions expect you to, I started to challenge certain decisions that management would make, and I started to challenge their thinking as well. And I think that ideally got me in with, you know, managers. They saw my potential, which allowed me to get to where I am now. So hence why I am now the scheduling and planning manager. You know, I'm able to challenge their thinking. I'm able to, you know, teach and help others who weren't fortunate to have that from leaders before. I don't know if a lot of you have been through it, but when your friends level up and become managers, they change, and it's like they change for the worse. I told myself I can't become that type of person. So, you know, because of my purpose in terms of helping others, inspiring them, etc., I said, you know what, if I get into the leadership position, that way I'll be able to, you know, hopefully make the impact that I wanted to see when I was in that role before. So, yeah.
Thank you very much for that, Alex. And I think one thing I really want to highlight about what you said is the term personal development. And I think that one of the biggest misconceptions we can make in our careers is that we can just go to the job that we need to do and just do the bare minimum. As an employer, that's not what they expect. And as a person, you shouldn't be thinking that way. Ideally, you should never have a ceiling that you can hit. You should be able to continually keep on progressing. And for example, me being an accountant, as Fiona can resonate, in accounting, there's two different models. You can literally just say, I just want to do the basic level work, or you can say, I want to be a qualified accountant. Or you can even hit things even further and say, I want to become a qualified accountant and specialize in tax and do this and do that. And the thing is, when you decide to do that, you have to realize that it's not going to be easy, and there are things out there for you to be able to actually bank on to do that. And I think one of the biggest social media platforms that people do not use the most is LinkedIn. I don't know who actually uses LinkedIn properly, but if you use LinkedIn properly, the doors that will be open for you are phenomenal. There are courses that you can do that you can add on to your LinkedIn profile, you can share with your friends. And what's so crazy about LinkedIn is that it's set up in a way that you essentially always want to be part of the conversation. So say, for example, I've said that, you know, I want to become a motivational speaker. What LinkedIn will do is that it will say, okay, you like motivational speaking, Kingsley. Have you seen this text here? Why don't you add this and speak to this person, etc.? And you know, Instagram, Snapchat, all these different things have changed so much. But LinkedIn is something that people don't understand, because probably people don't know this, but LinkedIn before was not doing anything. But then Microsoft bought them. Don't know if anyone knew that. And all of a sudden, LinkedIn now has LinkedIn Learning. They have all these different things here and there. And I think one of the things we need to make the most of are all these free courses that are online, because at the end of the day, there are courses that are basically equivalent to university level courses that if we literally pick up on here and there and apply it in our workplaces, they realize, okay, Alex, you're really good at productivity. You know, why don't we put you in a department to make sure that you know, initiate process? Or, you know, Alex, you're really good at being able to, you know, strategically plan things, you know, using the Prince 2 project management course to say, you know, you can greenlight projects here and there. And one thing I've learned so much is that when you really are wanting to really explore how to get deeper into a career, you need to learn how to literally look at things on a much, much deeper level that you ever looked at before. It's not just about you going to university, getting a job and doing these things. It's about you getting into a role that's constantly challenging yourself every single day. And that's the reason why the role that I'm in at the moment, I thoroughly enjoy it, because never have I physically actually been challenged so much on a day-to-day basis, to the point that they're actually asking me to make processes for a company that I barely know, because it's like I blink an eye, they've already acquired another company. I blink my eye again, they decided to, you know, hold a speech and do these different things. But before I go any further, I'll let Lana speak.
Yeah, I was just going back to what Alex said. It's really more of a question, because I like what you said, that when you were in that role, you were kind of thinking about management and the style of management. And I know that generally people don't like management. There always seems to be a clash. It's very easy when you're the junior employee, but when you're the manager, you know, it is difficult. So I just want to hear your thoughts a bit more on this idea of how you transitioned and how you maintain that management level, because at the end of the day, decisions are being sent on to you that you now need to pass on to your team. You're now escalating it in kind of the downwards chain, and there will always be clashes. So how do you navigate? How do you kind of navigate that? Because I think that's it's a tougher question for us, because obviously you're starting the organization from scratch, you're hiring, you're doing all of these things, and sometimes it's hard to say, actually, this is the process. I mean, I have to do it, but it is uncomfortable. Go ahead.
That's a very good question. So the transition, it starts with me, in terms of leading myself. Do you know what I mean? If I'm able to lead myself, which, like I said, lockdown helps me to develop myself in a way where I'm able to, start managing myself, start taking things seriously, etc. But in terms of the transition from what I was doing in terms of, and then going into management, I had to learn how to communicate my thoughts and my ideas. I had to learn how to listen to what people were saying, what people's expectations were. And then it's about just what impact will it have on not only myself, what impact will it have on the company as a whole? What impact will it have on my colleagues? What impact will it have in general? So it's just basically understanding, challenging, and communicating effectively. So it's just about, how you do all those things. The transition wasn't easy, I'm not gonna lie, because there are people that have been in the company longer than me, who I've learned from, that I was able to supersede in some shape or form. So yeah, it's not easy at all, but it's just about how you effectively communicate, if anything.
Thank you very much, Alex, for answering Lana's question. And I find it funny that your guys are talking about transitioning, because the person that I've literally been holding out for throughout this whole time is actually going to speak on that. So I'm just going to quickly just run you through what Alicia Richardson does. So she works in as a senior talent partner at Depop. Don't know if anyone knows what Depop is, but she initially started out in recruitment consultancy, and she actually has her own podcast. Aside from that, she also has her own business called Black Create Connect. And one thing that I found so refreshing about all the different podcasts that she's had is that she's speaking to people of seniority and showing us that it's a case where they basically analyze whatever they've gone through and gotten to the place where they're going to. And I think that what she's going to say to us specifically about, changing in terms of how we look at our process and really being able to understand what is the best way of us getting fulfillment within our roles will really be able to help us. So no pressure, Alicia, but we waited for you. So I'm going to leave the floor to you for you to just briefly explain what you do and how you think that we, in all of our respective fields, will be able to actually make the most of ourselves in our roles. Alicia, you there?
Hey everyone. Hello.
Hi.
Hey everyone. Apologies.
Hey.
Out. I had to do a podcast recording. I'm still in the studio now, as you can probably see. So apologies for the delay. But just to be clear, Kingsley, you want me to give like a talk about my career journey and like advice on kind of how to get to where I am today. So just to give you all an overview as to kind of what I do. So I'm a senior talent partner at the moment within a tech company. I'm also a founder of this network called Black Create Connect, which is a Black professionals network and also a job board. And I also do D&I consulting and training on the side as well. So that's where I'm at the moment. In regards to my career journey and kind of my key learnings. So I actually started out in recruitment in 2017. I didn't really have any intentions of getting into recruitment. And by the way, if anyone has any questions whilst I'm speaking, feel free to like raise your hands or pop it in the chat and I'll be happy to answer them. So I didn't have any intentions from uni kind of going into recruitment. I just kind of went into sales. And then when I went to a recruitment agency, they asked if I would join them internally. And I'm a huge kind of advocate and believer of like kind of going with what potentially feels right at the time. If there's someone that sees a particular skill set in you that you haven't yet explored, go for it, try it. And that was recruitment for me. So they saw something in me that I wasn't sure if I could do or not. So I thought, let me go for it. So I went into recruitment, then done like digital marketing roles. I decided to leave agency side recruitment. And for those that don't know, agency side recruitment is when you work with an agent, so a third party company, and we work with various different companies to help them with hiring. So I had to contact companies, find out if I can help them with hiring, and then I had to find candidates as well and try to fill the roles. So I was like a middleman. Now, the problem that I had when I was doing that was that I was hiring to various different cultures that I couldn't verify, or I couldn't, I guess, confirm if there were great cultures to work in. So I felt like I needed to go internal for me to really have an impact in the companies that I'm working in and have a kind of change. So I went to a company which was an RPO setup, which an RPO is where they're a recruitment company, but they work in-house on particular projects. So similar to like PwC, like those type of consultancy companies where we go on in-house projects with companies to do their recruitment. So that's when I worked on Spotify. And that was good working for Spotify, but the company I actually worked with was terrible. They kind of displayed several microaggressions. They were massively racist. They mainly had like severe imposter syndrome. And I think from that experience, what I did learn was that there's a lot of companies that might look, because the company that I worked for really looked great. It really seemed good based on the benefits and everything, but it just wasn't inclusive. So that then taught me that I need to make sure that I'm having an impact in inclusive environments, and probably diversity, and educating companies on how to be a more inclusive environment and retain their underrepresented employees. So whilst I was there, one of the key things that I did that helped me to really raise my value, even though I was going through those experiences, was doing extra things outside my day-to-day job. So even though I was doing my hiring, I managed their charity events. I did an event for them for Carnival. I did their Black History event. I did their newsletter. I did their social media content. I did other things outside of my job title, so that even if I leave within 3 or 6 months, I've still left with loads of experience. And I think the key thing to do, I'm going to get onto that as well with my next role, when you are in a position in a company, don't do the bare minimum and don't do just what you're hired to do. I know it might seem uncomfortable and you don't want to get into a place of where you're overworking and the company's taking advantage of you, but you're adding value for yourself, because if you've done more than what you're required to do, you're always going to be of higher value, and you're always going to be the last choice if they're looking to dismiss someone, or if they do dismiss you, you have your evidence as to what you've done, and that is an unfair dismissal. So anyway, so when I was at Elements, sorry, I shouldn't say the company's name, whatever. So I was there. I decided to leave because this whole situation was affecting my mental health, and I had to act very quickly, because at this time I didn't have massive savings. I was living by myself, paying for myself to live, so I have to get a new job very quickly, and I left on an impulse. I just literally quit one day. I said, I'm not doing this anymore. So then what I did was research different companies that value diversity and inclusion. So I'd done research online, I could put a list together. And then I went on LinkedIn and I found their contact details for like the founders or people that were the head of talent in those companies. So I'd done that list together. I also then looked at the people that worked in those companies and looked at their experiences, what they've done, the language that they're using on their profiles. And I adapted my profile on my LinkedIn. I'll share my LinkedIn page with you all. And I thought to myself, I really need to stand out. I mean, it's a crowded market out there with as a candidate. You really need to do things to make your profile stand out. So I thought I need to, change my job titles a little bit, tweak them. I need to make sure I've got presentable pictures. I need to get some recommendations going. So I asked colleagues that have worked with me or candidates to add some recommendations as well. So I did that before I approached those individuals on LinkedIn. Then I went to approach, I think the first person I approached is who I got hired with. So it was a guy called Rich. I literally just dropped him a message and I was honest with him. I said, I'm not enjoying my time. I've just quit my job on an impulse. And I see that you value diversity and inclusion. I'd love to have a chat. The key thing when you're approaching companies online for jobs, be honest about why you're speaking with them. Sometimes they're not always hiring, but just, oh, sorry, Kingsley, did you raise your hand? Sorry.
Yeah. I just wanted to quickly just speak to something that you said because we're running out of time. But
okay.
One thing I liked about what you said is the fact that from what I understand from listening to your podcast and also listening to you, because as it is, it's the same thing. You're very intentional, and I think that's one thing I'm trying to really bring across to every single person that's on, and unfortunately, the people that have left as well, or even the people that are even watching on YouTube, because what I've realized when it comes to our careers, we can't just have this notion that we're just going to go into the job, do what we need to do, and then go back home. The moment that we've decided to do that, it's no longer just, something we do for fun. It's basically just a task that we're completing for somebody else. And what I liked about what you said is the fact that, I don't know if you said it yet or if I'm going off of what I've heard in your podcast, but I remember you saying that you really wanted to work for a particular person and you basically made sure you were in the conversation of that person to actually be able to work for them.
Yeah.
I don't think that's something normal to do. I don't know about anyone else. I don't think that's something normal to do. And I think that's one of the reasons, one as well as many of the other reasons why I really wanted to invite you on the podcast, because I think, sorry, not podcast, onto this platform, because of the fact that what you do, I don't think you realize how important what you do is. Even seeing, Black Create Connect, seeing the fact that you've actually shown us how to put together a CV, put together a covering letter and everything. I myself, I do that, but obviously I charge you for it. And I think it's so interesting when I actually do that process, because I get to kind of see somebody on a different level. So like, for example, one client I can mention is a case where, I don't know, they're maybe not really able to really speak confidently or really be able to speak about themselves or actually put pen to paper and say, you know what, I do this, that, and that. But the crazy thing is the role that they're going for, the role that they're actually going for actually means that they need to do such a thing. And I think it's so interesting that, especially from GCSE level, we're not taught how to put together a CV. A CV is very much I. And you can attest to it. I should probably never be on your CV. But all these common misconceptions that we're taught are one of the reasons why we're not able to really flourish. I remember you even actually mentioned in your podcast that, you actually were very much into the arts. You're probably starting to realize that I actually listen to things quite a lot, but you were very much into the arts. And you were talking about the fact that you didn't really know what you wanted to do and you went into a recruitment consultancy, which I think is kind of a typical thing for people to do when they finish university. Not to say that it's a bad profession or thing, but I think it's in recruitment that you actually really get to understand practically every single type of career, because you need to look specifically what the company is looking for, see if it matches with the role, and see if you're able to help. But I think what really makes you different from others is the fact that you will actually look for a role and say, even if that person is not successful, you will go and help them find said role that they will be successful in. And personally speaking, I think that's a tremendous skill, and I hope that God just richly blesses you. So if there's just one more thing that every single person can say, including yourself, Alicia, in just one sentence, what would you say to everybody that's watching?
Someone actually said to me in my podcast today, and I'm going to take it from them, which is the parachute won't open if you don't jump. And I feel like a lot of us, wait for opportunities to come to us and just expect things to happen. That's in our head and in our heart. And we need to really take the plunge and just go for it and try, because if we don't, then we're not going to know if the parachute's going to open or if we're going to drop down. So, so that's one thing that I think I'll give you all to take away.
Does anyone want to go next? Linda, one sentence that you could say to everyone on this call as well as on YouTube.
That summarizes
essentially what you think is best for people to be able to make sure that they are basically allowing themselves to be the best version of themselves.
I'm just gonna wing it. I would say be open-minded. If you don't know what you want to do, be open to opportunities and say yes to as many different things as you can. things that pique your interest and that will develop you. And sometimes stick out the hard things, because those things can develop you for a season. And I think it gives you a lot of character points. So yeah.
Thank you. I'll go next, and then I'll pick on Adrian. So so for me, it's trusting God is paramount to being successful in life. If everyone see my WhatsApp and everything, that's key for me, because I've had low points and high points in my career, and it's me consistently trusting God that has allowed me at some point to look for a job and it take one year to all the way being down to coming to take 3 weeks. And that's just because I've just trusted in the process of really redefining myself. So Adrian, you're next.
I'm going to say that the best rewards lay deep under the surface. Sometimes it takes years in certain paths to really see the riches and the gold of what you're searching for. And also, like this one I got from Reddit, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Like, just try it. Don't self-reject, self-promote, and you'll never know. You might be quite surprised to see where you get to.
Thank you. I mean, you gave like 3 for 1 offer, but thank you. Alex, 1 sentence.
Oh man, I want to say more. But one thing I would say is the comfort zone is where dreams die. Complacency is never good. I always aim for the top. Never settle for less. Always continue to try and self-improve.
I feel like Alex had a bit of headway to plan that, because that was okay. But Raymond, 1 sentence. Raymond, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
1 sentence that you can say to everyone on this conference and everyone that's watching to help them to know how to become the best version of themselves.
One thing I've noticed is patience. Like a lot of things doesn't come when you want them to, but they will definitely come when you put everything in place. So every day I say to everyone all the time, like every day, put things that your future self will be happy with. So let's say, for example, for me, if you want to get into treasury, every day try to learn something within treasury. Try and put yourself in places that, that career may need from you, and stuff like that. But yeah, patience is definitely one of them, because technically from when I graduated at the age of 21 and I'm now 29, I could say it took me 7 years to actually get to this, to get into the treasury role that I actually want to be in. So, 1 sentence. Yeah, but that's it. Thank you very much. Sorry, sir.
No problem. Fiona.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I was going to say, quick one, don't be pressured with people's successes around you. It doesn't make you a failure. Your time will come. Just be patient. That's all I have to say.
Who is next? I guess the next person would be Sunny.
I would say it's a marathon, not a race. So just focus on your end goal. What I would also say is always speak positive into your life. So never really say I can't do this. Always try to find ways to actually achieve what you want to do. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Thank you, Sonny. And last but not least, I think probably the person that has maybe the most experience of us all, Lana.
Yes, my sentence. I'd say transitioning from employee when everyone is clapping to employer, even in those dark spaces where there is nobody there to encourage you, encourage yourself, talk to yourself, believe in yourself. That's what I'll say while I'm going through this journey.
All right, thank you everyone for coming on. I hope you all thoroughly enjoy yourself. And I've just realized that from doing this program that we need to do this maybe on a monthly basis, because a lot of people have said, I want to do this, I want to do that. But thank you everyone for the words you said. Thank you for, bearing with me saying that you have 1 minute left, you have this minute left, because I'm actually helping you to learn a new skill, to be honest. But seriously, just thank you guys for taking the time out on your Saturdays. You know, you could be, as Alex is doing, chilling, relaxing in the sun. You could be doing whatever you need, but you've been putting yourself on a platform to be able to help young people to do, as the program says, to allow your purpose to be redefined. So thank you, everyone. And obviously it's been quite a long day, so obviously I'll allow you guys to go, but thank you once again, and God bless.